Hey everybody, it's Peter, and this is the 2025 Yamaha FJR 1300, and I know what you're thinking. Hey, this is kind of a dated bike, and I do a lot of dated bikes on this channel, but here's the thing. For 2025, this thing, yes, may not be updated to everybody's standard, but for a bike that's dated, this thing had so much when it came out that is still very, very much relevant today, and this is still probably one of the premier sport tourers, even though it doesn't have a TFT display. Do we care? Probably not if you're buying this thing. So what I'm going to do in this review is go over what this is in 2025, but we're also going to talk about how it compares in 2025, which is a harder thing to do if you look at the previous model years. So I can do that because I'm filming here at Rally Motoplex here in Moncton. They have two locations, one in Halifax, one in Dieppe, just outside of Moncton, and they give me complete access to their entire vehicle lineup. I'm going to cover as many 2025 bikes as I can, even ones that are relatively unchanged this year on this channel. So if that makes sense to you, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. There's an FJR pulling in right now. That's pretty cool. Anyways, hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and of course, if you want to help out my channel, just find a video or two that you like on this channel and watch them to the end. That really helps me. That's how I got these guys. The more this channel grows, the more access I have, the more things I can do for you. All right, let's get going with this review. So let's put this bike in a class. This is the sport tourer. It really is. It's been around, I think, you know, in some form or other since like the mid 80s or so, but really the reason it's still going strong today, or strong enough today, even without some of the updates that you'll find on other bikes like a TFT display, the reason it's still going strong is because it just gives you everything you want in a true sport tourer. It is very, very fast, but you can drive it like a Goldwing if you want. It's very comfortable. It's got enough size to take a passenger. It's got enough size to feel like a bigger bike. That is helpful when you're doing longer tours, but it also is compact enough and, you know, flickable enough that it very much is a sporty bike. So it's fast, it's sporty, it's fun, it's a sport tourer through and through. And of course, it's got the built-in luggage, which we're going to talk about in this video here. All of this stuff comes standard on the bike, so it is just exactly what you would want in a sport tourer. So let's start taking a look. We'll start at the very front wheel, we'll work our way through. All right, hopefully you can see it all right with a little bit of shadows and sunshine in here, but when we look at the front wheel of a motorcycle, the reason I do this is because you can tell the manufacturer's intent of a bike, and you can tell this is very much sport tourer. First of all, the tires, Bridgestone Battle Axe BT023F, they just say sport touring right on there. You know what they are. There'll be a dual compound tire, grippier on the side, longevity down the center, and of course, good in all weather conditions. You've got the dual disc brakes, that's what you expect. Of course, you have ABS, stuff like that, upside down forks. Now, where you can see some of the dated things is they like to have a different mount here, the sort of radial mount on a more modern bike. It's not going to matter too much, but it does have a better look, and in theory that can have a stiffer area. This is not something that isn't stiff though. This is plenty stiff enough, and that's kind of the point of this bike. It gives you everything you need. You've got the fender here, a little bit older style, but it does give you the protection over those upside down forks here. We're going to talk about the suspension in a second here. There's lots of settings in there, actually just 3 settings, which is what I love about it. Makes it nice and simple. And then overall, when you look past here, you probably can't see it in your shot, but the radiator is a curved radiator, just like a sport bike, trying to keep the bike a little bit narrower than it needs, or narrower than it could be. So again, a lot of sport bike type technology and features right here in the front. Let's move our way back through. Taking a look at the engine here, I'm going to quote right from the website. 1298cc, double overhead cam, 16 valve, 4-cylinder, liquid cooled, inline 4 engine delivers serious power and torque, and it really does. 4-valve cylinder head, 1-piece cylinder and upper crankcase assembly, high lift intake and exhaust cams. Are you bored yet? Linerless ceramic composite plated cylinder bores, high performance short skirt forged aluminum pistons. What this is, and what I've just described, is a sport bike engine. This is a 1300cc or 1298cc inline 4 that gives you all the power you would want from an inline 4. It gives you lots of power up top, but of course it's also set up and geared for the torque throughout. It really is a lovely engine, and I really mean that. I don't use the word lovely very often, but that's really what it is, a really nice engine. You've got some width in here because again, it's 4 cylinders to the sides, but of course that works with your bodywork to keep you protected from the wind. And everything of course is moved forward and low, just like a typical sport bike. It's not spread out like some of the more cruiser style bikes. It very much is something that's designed to give you good handling and tremendous performance. So a lot of fun on this bike. So before we head into the practicalities of this bike, and there are a lot of practicalities, let me just show you one key practicality, is how do I fit? I'm a 6-footer. You know, I can flat touch the ground here if I put my sort of feet in front of the pegs here. It's not a super tall bike, and certainly for a sport bike, sport touring, a bike of this size, it's not a tall bike, but you are a little bit taller. So you're gonna wanna be a certain height. Now, it's very easy to balance. It does not feel heavy when you're standing across it. And of course, it's not an adventure bike. You're not taking it on gravel or off-road where it's going to affect you more with really uneven ground, right? So you've got control over this bike. The one thing I will say, sitting across a lot of other, especially sportier bikes, the seat is still quite wide at the front. So the seat height is low, but you can see the reason I'm struggling to get my heels to the ground, and I can do it, is simply because the seat is wide, not because it's too high. So this is one of those things where specs can deceive you. If you think, oh, I fit on a bike of whatever seat height and this one's got within that seat height, it is gonna feel a little bit wider. Now, it is in no way intimidating if you're used to a bike of close to this size, or even a sort of a mid-size bike and up. Certainly not very intimidating. Now, a couple things I want to point out here. We've got the windshield here. If I can get to the spot in the menu, just let the dash turn on there. We will go to there, and I'm gonna raise that windshield from here's the lowest position. We're gonna, oh, no, sorry, there's the highest position. We're gonna bring it down to the lowest position. So it tilts, as you can see, back and down. That allows you to get some wind to your face, to your helmet, to get some cooling, of course. But if you wanna have some wind protection, it comes up a long, long ways. And of course, there are aftermarket accessories and probably Yamaha accessories to get larger screens and other kinds of things. But it really, you can see, it adapts very well to give you quick movement and a lot of ease of space here. Now, that's one thing that is such a simple thing, but for a bike that's so-called dated, a lot of bikes still have a manual adjustment or even no adjustment on bikes that you want to tour on, and that's just, to me, not acceptable. The other thing I should say about the seat is it is height adjustable here for the driver's seat. I believe I'm in the low position from what I'm checking on, but that is something worth considering. Seating position here, you do have your legs in a sport bike type position. What I mean is, some of the traditional touring bikes, so the adventure style tours, they put you like this. I find this to be completely comfortable. One thing to remember is this is a better sporting position. One, you can lean over more. Two, it puts your body a little bit forward, keeps your feet high. Some people aren't gonna love this position. I don't have any issues with it. If you've come from other sport bikes, you're gonna find that it's still a relaxed feeling because of the way you're sitting here. And of course, the handlebars are nice and close to you. Very comfortable riding position for someone like me, but you do have to keep in mind the way your legs are sort of angled like this. For some people, that's not what they're looking for. Does give you that feeling of a sport bike though, especially as you're digging into corners. You've really got that balanced kind of athletic stance. If you think about a football player in that athletic stance, your legs are bent, your arms are bent, you can really attack the corners and you'll feel very balanced in that position, and that's part of why they do it. So the other thing worth pointing out is a very, very large rear seat here. So that's really good. Not exceptionally high as well. Some of the other bikes that maybe sort of compete with this are gonna have a higher rear seat, so that's a little bit easier to get onto for some people. So you can absolutely take a second person or a bag of stuff across the back here. You've got space to do that. So as we start talking about practicality, of course, there's the seat, nice and cushy, plenty wide enough, and again, the big rear seat there as well, very comfortable. It does have a nice little angle up at the back there, so the rear passenger does feel, even if you don't put a top box on these, still do feel a significant spot behind them to sort of keep them in place. But of course, you've been staring at bags the entire time, so let's show you how they work really quickly. They do come off quite easily, not a hard thing to do. They do use the ignition key, which is also nice to have, and as you put the key in, it does not come out, and then you can pull this and open it up. Now I will show you just a view in there in a second here. What you can see is once that's up, like I said, that key is not coming out. So if the key is in your pocket, it is locked and locked to your bike. You can also play with the handle here, pull that all off. I will say a full-size helmet does fit in there, and it's fairly long, so it does give you a you know, some space to put some stuff in there. And of course, they're hard, lockable, relatively waterproof. And what's cool about them actually is, we're gonna zoom in here, there's a little bit of extra quality that you don't see in here. A lot of bags just have a sort of a drawstring, but of course, when you close it, they can get stuck. So this one actually comes into, right, it's on a little wheel, or like a tape measure kind of thing. So it comes right in there, always stays taut no matter where it is. And it works very well. So that is kind of a nice little feature to have on both these bags. Of course, you can get a top box on here as well. I believe there's a tray that goes there, but I can't remember for the life of me. So it's possible that tray is missing just on this particular bike right now. Both sides, of course, the same, and the exhausts are, the exhaust pipes are below it. So you've got, you know, some bikes will have the exhaust up high, and then the one side bag is actually smaller than the other side bag. These are going to be identical bags on both sides. I'm filming here on the shady side of the bike. One thing you'll see behind the rear pegs there is a center stand. That is standard on this bike. Now you might think, hey, center stand is great because that will allow me to do chain maintenance. Well, don't worry about chain maintenance. You have a shaft drive. This is such a key thing for people doing longer tours. You don't have to worry about chain maintenance. You don't have to take all that stuff with you. Having that smooth shaft drive is super, super nice. So that is one really key feature of this bike. A lot of bikes in this general class are still gonna give you a chain. And if you really are touring, that's something that you probably don't want, or it'd be nice to not have. So, you know, that would be a knock against other bikes and certainly a positive for this one to have that shaft drive there. All right, let's take a look at the dash and some of the controls. There's some unique controls in this bike that I really like. So up here on the dash, let's turn that key on. You do not have a TFT display. If that's gonna bother you, this isn't the bike for you. There's nothing we can do to change that. No news of a TFT display coming from what I've heard. What you do have here is a little bit of a shadowy area there. I'm trying to show you that screen on the right. Let's see if I can just move the camera a little bit there. You can see the neutral. Hopefully you can see the indicators there as well. I've got it in the screen mode right there. So that's the screen. I can move it up or down. I'll show you how I adjust these controls later, but I also want to show you some of the other controls. See this? It says soft. Well, let's just change that. Let's go from soft to standard and to hard. Three modes for the electronic suspension to adjust to, and that is perfect. I don't understand why you need 25 clickers or anything else. You basically want 3 modes. That is super simple to operate while you're riding, while you're on the bike, simple stuff. And then once you have it where you need it, you just kind of go through and you're done. So that is simple for the suspension. Now you can keep going through here. Oops, if I do the right thing here. There we go. If I hit the right button, you can keep going through. See that on the top right? That's your heated grip. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know. I'm looking in the sunshine on my screen here, but your heated grip also has some settings set: level 1, level 2, and level 3. And then you can turn them down as well. So heated grips built into the dash. Who would have thought? This is one of the things that irritates me about some of the things that Kawasaki has done with bikes that I've owned. This is simple. You can see how much your heated grips, they're included, they're built into the dash, and everything's there. You've got ride modes as well here. The sport mode is on right there. You've got your fuel gauge, you've got your speedometer, and then you've got an analog tachometer right over here, which is everything you could possibly want. Say what you want about not having a tach on a TFT, but you know what? This works and it's clear. Now, a couple other things I want to show you as we zoom in a little closer. See that button right there, or that knob right there? That's a pretty cool piece as well. This adjusts your headlights. So when you buy this bike and your spouse leaves you and your new friend is larger than your spouse was, as the bike squats, let me just use my finger here, as the bike squats with your new friend on the rear, you can adjust your headlights so the headlight's not shining in other people's eyes, which is super cool, nice to have. Over here as well, I think this might lock, nope, there we go, there's a 12-volt port just in there, so if you want to keep your phone charged or something like that, you can put it in there or have something else to charge. You do have a little cubby right there which you can get to. Just a lot of really nice little things in addition to that adjustable windscreen there that really make this bike practical. The other thing I should point out is both levers are adjustable. Let's take a look at some of the controls now. So like I mentioned, both clutch lever and brake lever are adjustable. This is a firm feeling clutch, but you know, that's a bigger bike. It's nothing that you can't handle. I will say in town, if you have really weak hands, you're gonna feel it a little bit, but that's fine. That's what you expect in a bike of this size. This is not a tiny little 200, 300cc bike. All right, let's zoom in a little bit here and see what you've got. Now, a lot of times on a bike, this button here, this trigger right here, is like a flash to pass for like high beam. That's not the case here. This is your menu button. That was what I was cycling through the menus on that far right screen that we were looking at. Now, we've got high beams there, we've got low beams there, and the flash to pass. It was in the high beam setting before. You got signal lights, horn, your cruise control, turning it on and off here, and setting and resuming over here. And then as I was cycling through those menus, I hit your menu button here and cycle through the information in there, like your soft suspension or bringing your windscreen up or down or turning your heated grips up or down. It's all right here. Say what you want about sometimes the dated look to some of this. This is intuitive and easy to work. You hit the menu button, you're on your heated grips, you turn them up. You hit the menu button, you're on your windshield, you turn it up or you bring it down. You hit the menu button, you're on your suspension, you turn it up to hit it down. It's super, super simple. You can do it while you're driving. You don't have to have a course to learn about it before you ride this bike. Over on the far side here, we did talk about ride modes. I don't think I mentioned them. There's an S and a T, which I'm assuming stand for sport and touring. So you've got your single kill switch, start switch. The mode button here switches you between sport and touring ride modes, and you do have hazard warning lights, which is what you would want on a touring bike. Nice features to have, simple stuff for a very good bike. So let's talk about who this bike is for. Of course, in 2025, there's a lot of competition. This is still probably one of the sportiest sport tourers out there. Some of the other sport tourers do sit a little taller in a more adventure bike riding position. That is going to lengthen out your leg, but it also is going to raise the center of gravity and change the way it handles. This thing still handles really well, and it is an absolute rocket, and that's what people love about it. Now, if you want a TFT display, that's great. You can have TFT displays showing you 1,000 things. But if you're like me, just because the screen shows 1,000 things, I mean, my phone does 1,000 things and I probably use it for 20 at best. So having a display that just gives you everything you need and nothing you don't can be a strong point. There's no app connectivity through here, which you can get on other bikes, which again, in 2025, may be something you want and this bike won't offer it to you. But if you do want that, a lot of time you just mount the GPS and you can get some of that app connectivity through a GPS unit. A simple Garmin will give you things like text messages, phone calls, and that kind of thing through your headset as well. So you have options to do something like that. And on a touring bike, you're probably going to want to add a GPS at some point. So that's what you would do to get some of those features and some of the functionality. I will say it is refreshing to have controls that are easy to use, easy to understand, and easy to remember when you're on the bike. Now, flip side is some of the other bikes that have those better, more complicated controls, once you learn them, it's no big deal. For someone like me who goes from bike to bike to bike to bike, if I can figure it out in a heartbeat, then that usually means that you can figure out when you need to do it without studying a lot, and that's good as well. I will say this bike is great for a passenger, but still a sport bike type feel. It's a really good single rider sport bike for everything you need. If you want to go across the country on a bike, a Goldwing will do it. So will this, and I'd rather ride this. It's much lighter, much more approachable, and that's the thing. It's not nearly as intimidating as a vehicle size than you would expect. It is going to be intimidating with that power, but that's all up to your right hand. You can control how much you have in that. So in 2025, is this a recommended buy from me? It absolutely is. I still think that there's a lot this bike has to offer, including the shaft drive, great bags, lockable, all that kind of stuff. The electronically adjustable windshield, the heated grips built in. It's got all the stuff that you would want on a bike like this, and that's why I still think it's a good buy in 2025. It also has a strong following. This is a bike that you can find used, and you can sell used as well, because people are looking for a bike like this all the time. It's just, you know, relatively simple to work, but gives you everything you want in that sport touring department. So there you go. There's my review of the 2025 Yamaha FJR 1300. If you made it this far in the video and you like this thing, tell me what you love about it. If you've had one in the past, tell me what you love, what you've done with it, where you've gone, that kind of stuff. I'd love to hear from you. And yeah, maybe we'll come back to it in the future. Thanks everybody for watching.